I'll just share and remind these 3 meditation techniques that involve thoughts. So remember, having thoughts, utilizing thoughts isn't bad, but we tend to be attached to thoughts like water that's soaking into the earth. Our awareness is soaking into thoughts. And this can be hell for yourself and for those around you. It's very unappealing, actually. Unless somebody's doped up on thoughts too, and they're going to also be unappealing with you. But there's nothing like a nice, spacious, intuitive mind. Like this kind of involuntary being pulled around. That's not it. I have faith that even the youngest to the oldest, however you're appearing, can access this entirety of the mind. The thoughts are happening within mind. We don't have to confine our entire consciousness to thoughts. So the first technique is very ancient, traditional, timeless, and popular. I invite all of you to try it if you're sincere about your own freedom, or even benefiting others, or even just the collective. And so as we rest here, relax here, you can look at the one who's thinking. Turn awareness in on the thoughts, and on the one who's thinking. And rest there in that presence that opens up. I'm not trying to turn you into a drone, okay? If there's trepidation right now, it's completely understandable. This is only for the willing. This is apex. This is the summit. Not everybody's going to be down for this. What's the question, Dundu?
What do you mean,
thought.
like a drone?
Well, I'm not trying to make you a thoughtless sort of zombie, okay? I'm not talking about a drone that flies up in the sky and scares everybody. I mean like a thoughtless drone. That's not what this is about. It's about accessing the full range of your cognition rather than being confined into a compartmentalized little space where you're blind, where you're stepping on people, where you're ignoring stuff, where you're perpetuating conditioning, karma. So Dundrup, obviously you were not doing the practice that I'm inviting you to do, because otherwise you would be still and sitting here. This is a meditation time. You have this great awareness here. Look at the one who's thinking. It's the invitation. Then relax. And the next technique that we're going to use to hopefully promote spaciousness of mind, freedom from bondage, freedom from this cognitive fusion. They even have been able to pin it down in the past years in neuroscience that this is what's happening to people. Their cognition is being fused into a smaller dimension of consciousness, and they're highly susceptible to, well, I want to say propaganda, but I mean, anything really. Somebody can manipulate you. You're quite vulnerable when you're only locked into your thoughts or your emotions. In fact, it's very easy to take advantage of somebody like that because you know their ideas, you know their beliefs, and you can just cater to them. You know that they, if you make them feel good, they'll do anything you want, or they'll agree with you, they'll follow you. That's why I'm always impressed by these gatherings because a lot of times you don't feel good in here. You're not getting placated, that's for sure. Sometimes it feels great in these gatherings, but a lot of times we also get challenged and things like that. Or get certain feelings that arise that aren't high vibe necessarily, elation. And that's great, We don't want to favor certain emotions over others. That's also leading to a perpetual dissatisfaction. So, anyway, the second technique where you're basically freeing yourself up, where water is becoming, coming out of the ground, or we can imagine water being spilled on the ground, on the earth, and it saturates the ground. Well, awareness doesn't have to be like that. Buddha Shakyamuni called consciousness without surface. Awareness doesn't have to saturate into anything. And so that's the idea here, is that there's cognitive diffusion when we're doing these techniques. And the second one you have done before, this is isolating a thought. So if we have a thought like the sun is bright, that's 4 words, right? The sun is bright. If you really want to be involved in this technique, let that be your only thought. And yes, you have to kind of hit it like a bell where you say, the sun is bright, and see that thought in your mind. And you might say it again to yourself, the sun is bright. Just seeing where that thought is happening. That's all we're after right now. The sun is bright. Just allowing that one thought within space-like awareness, space-like cognition. Now look, when you have that thought, the sun is bright, what's above that thought? What surrounds that thought? What's below it? Is anyone not able to contain the thought? Surround the thought with awareness or cognition? Anyone not able to see this basis for the thought? Ding in, be brave. We're talking about your freedom here. We're talking about everybody's freedom and collective benefit here. So try this. It's very, very simple. If you can master this, then I'll leave you alone. Everybody good? So 32 people in here know how to isolate a thought. Okay, I believe you. No. Who's having an issue with this? Speak up now. Yes. Go right ahead, brother.
Yeah. I guess in some ways, as I attempt to isolate it, I'm attempting to in some way like biolocate it, like geolocation, like try to find it somewhere in my space to kind of bring it contain it. I guess this is how I'm thinking about isolating it, is to bring it somewhere, and it's not like registering anywhere kind of in my space. So I guess when I hear isolated, I kind of think surround it and kind of bring it into my awareness so that I can like hold it where I can like, and I just can't seem to kind of wrangle it to a location, I guess. I don't know if I'm, is that what you mean by this?
I think you're doing it perfectly fine. It sounds like you're doing it perfectly fine.
Okay.
Yep. And who knows what the location is? You're probably taking it one step deeper there and trying to find the location. This is actually a practice that they talk about where you find the location of a thought and you don't come up with anything. And so that's emptiness, that's spaciousness, that's insubstantiality or the non-existence of that thought.
Okay. Yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
And because typically we are in that, the sun is bright. We are in that, we are invested into it. And that causes the issues. Like serious issues. We become radicalized. I mean, I don't know if I even need to mention the issues, but we do lots of stupid stuff when we can't get out of our thoughts, including taking our own lives. That's all because of a thought that's haunting us and we can't get away from it. Yes, Andre.
I've had a different issue, even from the beginning when we introduced this technique. The issue is that and I found a way to manage, but I'm just expressing a little bit my experience. When you are giving an example, it doesn't feel natural in my awareness. I can be in the thought that you are, inviting us to construct in our minds, but again, it doesn't feel like it came organically into my mind.
Yeah, we're doing this by deliberation. Yeah.
But I can isolate a thought that comes in my mind out of a, kind of nascent by my mind. So if something comes to me from me, yeah, I see the thought. I see how kind of it's a reified type of cloud, whatever metaphors can be used. But you understand what I'm saying? It's like a ball comes to me, thrown by somebody else, and I cannot absorb it if, that's all.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Yeah, I think that's fine too. There's a little bit of unnaturalness to it. It's good to point that out because I'm sure others are experiencing the same. And I even, when I sit here and do it, it feels a little unnatural. Okay. So all these things are fine. This is displaying the mastery of your mind, the freedom that you're starting to get. You can invoke any thought you want and you can keep it there. And you don't have to have any other thoughts. You can have any thought that you want for as long as you want. And you can have as much investiture in regards to emotions and your body as you want. That's true free will, in my opinion. John, did you want to join back in?
Yeah, I actually have a question about this. There are a particular set of thoughts that I avoid or push away, right? So there's some that I grasp onto, and there's some that I push away. And the ones that I push away, this exercise specifically, is there any benefit in conjuring and holding thoughts that I would have a tendency to push away, like pull them up and just hold them?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Kind of do the reverse of what I tend to do, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great question. I recommend against it. Other therapy methods and things like that, they go for that kind of thing. It's called a kind of deliberate invocation, and I don't get down with that because I feel like throughout the day you're gonna have these thoughts trying to come up, and that's more natural. That's like the natural wind of our mind blowing, and so when that happens, then I would say, notice you're resisting, and let that thought be as empty as, the sun is bright. Or we could even say, um, something ridiculous like bananas are triangle. Something that doesn't even make sense, and it has an emptiness to it. Or I am a banana, right? That's that practice where you think of yourself as a banana, and all of a sudden everything gets light because you don't have that investment into it. And that's the same. So the two thoughts, the ones you like and the ones you don't like, are both, they're both like beads. They're the same beads, but one is being given more investment than the other, more subscription. And so if you can get that really with any thought, there's a great evenness that can be with any thought. And that doesn't mean, again, that we become a mindless sort of drone with no emotions or, no kind of play into our environment. It's not like that. There's a great evenness, a great freedom in there. And you can get into those thoughts if you want to. So let them come up just like a bird that flies by when you're looking out the window, if possible.
Thank you.
And then that's it, everybody. It's really that free. That freeing, where a little bit of pulling out of those thoughts, a little bit of coming into the so-called witness, the freedom is there. And I'm not trying to blame thoughts for everything. They get a lot of blame, right? I think they can still be great. They can be wonderful. Okay, so any other questions? Mhm. All right. We're just going to continue then. So isn't it remarkable, though, that there's this part of your mind that can actually supersede or be outside of thoughts, that can hold them? What is up with that? Theoretically, according to materialism, we should be like a computer, like a one track. We shouldn't even be able to get out of our thoughts and the brain-centric philosophies. So this is really, really great. It's unknown territory. Lots of institutions have made sure that this kind of practice doesn't go mainstream. It's blasphemy. It's evil. Because look what it does. It frees you. I can't come in here and brainwash you anymore now. Dang it. So Dundrup says, does it count as a thought that I understand you while thinking sun is bright? Well, this is a realization, okay? As you isolate that thought, wherever it's located, I'm glad location was mentioned. So let's say it's right here. The sun is bright. My awareness is everywhere, all around it, permeating that thought. The sun is bright. So this is a realization. You don't understand anything. You're noticing this part of your mind that's able to hold thoughts. And if you're not able to have that thought, that single thought, if you have elaboration, the sun is bright, but why is it bright? Why is Dawai telling me to say the sun is bright? I don't understand this practice. All these things are always happening. Is the sun really bright? It's cloudy today. If you're having that train of thought, you drank too much coffee today, too much caffeine, or whatever stimulant. This is the issue. Why Dzogchen needs a little bit of calm abiding. It needs a little bit of stability so that you can notice the ground, the basis. If the mind is too speedy, it'd be very tricky unless you do a "Hut!" or some kind of interruption, which for many beings is death or some serious stuff happening. Then that train, that contentment into dukkha, into the disharmony, that contentment is shaken up, and finally you get to have that cognitive diffusion. But really, a free mind is able to sit here. The sun is bright. Only thought in the world. When I said only thought in the world, I didn't think that. I don't know where that came from while I was thinking the sun is bright. But this thought is isolated. It's the only thought I have. And some people will say, no, I'm not even going to try this experiment. I know my mind, I'm mastering it. There's all kinds of hindrances that present themselves to this experiment. Only 5 out of probably 33 people here today are actually doing this. Well, maybe I'm a little pessimistic, but I feel it's an incredibly advanced practice, but I'm going to introduce it nonetheless. So go ahead, Timon.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, when I remember to do this practice, isolating a soul, sometimes when, let us say, an affliction arises, let us say, just an example, I have an issue with Eastern, for example, yeah, which is in the moment here. And I did it today, then I just isolate the soul Eastern.
See, no. I asked you to isolate a different thought. The sun is bright. Yeah. See, that's what I had the feeling that a lot of you aren't following the technique. And, I didn't say make up your own invention, decide whatever thought you want. I said the sun is bright. Use that thought.
I did the sun is bright. I just was saying an example what I did earlier.
What do you mean earlier? We were.
When we were not meditating this morning in my own house here. I did the sun is bright. I just wanted to say what happened when I was doing this Eastern earlier, that and I isolated the thought and being very quiet. A lot of stories around Eastern dissolved. That I just wanted to say.
Oh.
That is why I think this practice, what you were saying, is very, very powerful. It's not just the thought, but the whole story around can dissolve and become. That is why I believe it's a very powerful. But before I didn't so, like a few weeks I didn't so, I didn't realize it. But I had experience in other moments where I felt in a certain way and could manage a thought, isolated thought, the whole problem dissolved.
Mm-hmm. All right. I wasn't trying to say the E word. No, I wasn't trying to say the E word today, because that brings up so much for people. Even if it's good, even if it's light, it's all right. Because we're doing a thought practice right now. I want to keep it very bland, very simple. The sun is bright. Like this is what has happened in the past 10 minutes. I've managed to get a lot of you to simplify, to come into what I'm trying to share. Okay. So I just don't want to add anything more complicated or, if you have questions about the practice, then sehr gut. Otherwise, let's continue on because there's a third method that I still want to introduce. Okay. But I'm very happy that you were able to tackle something heavier. That wasn't my invitation. I'm still inviting you all to be here with me. The sun is bright really is the only thought right now. If you start to detour into your own practices and things like that, I really encourage you to come back here, clear the mind. It's not for everybody. Only a handful of people are going to actually maintain this, but to stay here in presence with me, not to proliferate into other thoughts. and tell stories right now. Man, that caffeine is a killer. Go ahead, Dundu.
I want to talk about a difficulty I had, but also this difficulty was not continuous throughout. So, uh, uh, who is the one looking? And a single thought: the sun is bright in the space. But when I listen, right, sometimes I would get into what I was listening to, and not just be thinking the sun is bright. While at other times, I was just thinking the sun is bright, and everything else appeared without contraction into it. So everything else is just coming in through like without contraction and effortlessly. So I wonder if I was doing it right and then getting distracted, or whether it was
Yeah.
whether receiving your words without contraction into them was the right thing.
Yeah, I think you got it. There was a point where you were proliferating and a point where you were in the pocket.
Okay, thank you.
In the pocket of the presence. That's what it's like, a big old party I'm trying to invite you all to right now. In the presence. And being in the thought proliferation without being able to take a break, without being able to get out of it. It prevents you from having the coolest dance moves, okay? In our party. I don't know. I'm trying to lighten this up a little bit because I know it can be challenging, but we're going to continue on. I knew this would be challenging from the very start, and I'm not trying to be condescending or anything. I'm letting you know that it's hard. This is not for easy, and I mean, I couldn't even do it. You know, I've done over a decade of meditation, just shamatha, and I would still probably find it difficult. So I'm not trying to put anybody down or create some kind of hierarchy, but this is the secret, you know. Tom's saying, am I thinking the words "the sun is bright" or the concept? Well, those are concepts. So you're thinking concepts. You're invoking, and the reason why those are concepts or conceptual constructs is because we have some kind of investment into them. And so maybe you really love the sun, maybe you really hate the sun, maybe the sun hurt you in your life or something like that. So when you say the sun, it could bring up all kinds of different stuff for you. And in Dzogchen, the invitation is to become even, which at first sounds like you're becoming feelingless. But there's an evenness. When I say the sun, you know, now we're simplifying it into one concept, one construct. Because you may not like brightness either. You may have ideas about brightness. So the idea here is that you should be able to just say the sun is bright with a complete evenness, without any proliferating. If that's sparking, which it has done today for many of you, if it sparks a bunch of stories and things like that, that's how easy it is to trigger you. I could have called you a poopy head and you would have been thinking about it all day. We could have said cupcake. Maybe you really love cupcakes. And then you have to eat one within the next hour or else you're going to be sad. You see, so the sun is bright. That one thought is giving you a lot of information about how your mind works. How one thought brought up by the host can actually cause you to proliferate. Or you may have ego stories as you're further along. Wow, I can really isolate this thought. I'm a badass when it comes to isolating thoughts, you know. Still, great mind science. Seeing that is enough. Just seeing everything that our consciousness does when it comes down to a thought. Yeah, I'm the isolator. I'm the great isolator. Nice, Oza. So, yeah, it's about discovering science of the mind, and that way, also there's a huge decrease in susceptibility and vulnerability with this. Your intuitive mind is going to be louder than your conceptual proliferating mind, which makes you less vulnerable and less blind. So any other questions about that? Okay, taking you into these deep waters. No life raft. No life preserver. Okay, so the third, we'll just relax here again. Sort of able to control our own minds, making it do more what we're directing rather than some kind of involuntary programming. This time we're going to have as many thoughts as possible about the sun. Oh yeah, there it is. I can feel it. Ramp it up. The sun is bright. Does it go up? Does it go down? Where does it show up at? What color is it? Is it warm? Is it cold? All these things. Just let your mind fill up. Notice where that's happening. Maybe I should have started with this one. This one, getting a better vibe off of this one. Very good. Any questions about that? And I'm not making these up. These are straight out of the scriptures, Dzogchen techniques. They actually have you overly proliferate. Isn't it great? When I notice where the thoughts are happening, they stop. Oh, Dundra, very good. Getting thumbs up from Nime. That one had a lot more juice. Okay. Yeah, I felt that too. I felt a lot of you clearing out. Well, it seems like anyway, the intuition I'm getting. All right, everybody. The theme is the same, whether you're looking at the one who's thinking, whether you're isolating a single thought, or whether you're purposefully proliferating. All the themes are the same, is that we want to access the place that's holding the thoughts, essentially. The territory outside of thought compartmentalization. So excellent. I am super proud of you all, anyone who participated in that. I feel that you are brave, you are strong, you have a lot of shamatha, stability to even give this a try. So all the praise goes to you. I know it's a little challenging and things like that. And I know I'm very specific about how I present it. So thank you. I really do appreciate you. And Dundrup saying, are we supposed to notice the space in which thoughts happen and the thoughts at the same time? Well, you have no problem noticing thoughts. They're quite apparent. So yeah, we're dealing with the space that's holding the thoughts. The thoughts will be apparent. Don't worry about that. I don't think you need to go out of your way to pay attention to thoughts. But there are layers to everybody where some thoughts are very surface, like bananas are great. You know, that could be a very light thought. Or if you think, I wonder how my father's doing, that would have a different weight to it. They're both built from conceptual constructs, but one hits different than the other. There can be an evenness. I wonder how my father's doing can be the same exact weight as bananas are great. And you're not losing any responsibility. You're not becoming less empathetic or anything like that just because you don't invest into thoughts. Your heart is already invested into this place. You don't have to worry about losing any kind of investment. I'm addressing this several times because it has come up over the years. Sharing this practice, people start to think, well, if I don't really get into that thought, I wonder how my father's doing, then I'm being, irresponsible or something like that, unkind even. But that's not the case. In fact, you're being more kind by not allocating your entire heart into that thought. You're letting your heart breathe into open spaciousness where you can actually possibly connect with your Father in a profound way. So, yeah, I think Tao wanted to join in there.
Yeah, I have a question. So when I ping a thought, um, actually, never mind. I just answered my question.
I knew you were going to do that. I'll just sit here and wait for him to answer it himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you want to share what your revelation
Sure.
was?
Well, it's the same thing that happened before, where I'm adding an extra move without realizing I'm adding an extra move until I just realized that I was. Which was like, have the thought be the only thing in your awareness, contract around the thought is this extra move that I'm like adding in for some reason. And I just realized that. I was like, well, yeah, don't do that. That's not it.
Very good. Very
Okay.
good. That sounds similar to what John's sharing was. Yeah, there's going to be some contraction that's unavoidable if you haven't been, in Dzogchen for years and years, of course.
Yeah.
Because this is our home. We're very used to doing it. You ever seen the dogs that just run back into the cage even though it's open and they don't have to be in there?
Mhm.
Right? This is what we do with thoughts. We run back into the cage even though it's open. We don't need to be confined.
Yeah.
And that's the natural process of our consciousness being allocated into thoughts. That's the exact diffusion that I'm aiming to sort of promote here. This the diffusion from the thought isolation or the being bound, right? So it diffuses into spaciousness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So very good. Way to be your own guru there.
Thank you.
So John also want to join in?
Yeah, on that last exercise, I was able to, when you said kind of start thinking about all the things about the sun, what came to me kind of without any effort was an image, kind of a circular image of the sun. I was trying to like kind of bring up all the things I knew about the sun or facts about the sun or, versus, and a thing happened to me some years ago. I live in the Mile High City. I live in Denver, Colorado. And I was sitting at a meeting. My arm was near the window and it was hot. And I mean, it was like the sun was just beating on my arm. And I just had the thought, like, God, it's hot. And then I was like, how far away is that thing to be creating this kind of heat? And I looked it up, and it's like 93 million miles away, the sun from the earth. And it blew my mind like that I'm 1 mile up, like the intensity of the sun, just 1 mile up. And then and so these are all, again, concepts, right? These are constructs, or this is happening all in my head, yet it walked me towards something that was like vast and unknowable and kind of beyond my conception. And so I guess in some ways my question is like, you say it's all constructs and it's all thoughts. Are we in this space kind of using constructs like a scaffolding and then to like let it fall away in a way? Like is there value in some of these constructs to walk us towards kind of a space of kind of vastness or unknowing or awareness? I don't know. I guess I don't know if
In
that's
your
question makes
no,
any
no,
sense.
definitely is another really great inquiry. The constructs are the sun is bright. The sun is a construct, but what you're describing there, you're going beyond constructs, okay? And the constructs are fine. There's no problem with them. They're just a kind of dream language. They're proprietary. If I say, Nidhi, hey, look at the sun, she's not going to acknowledge that, right? It's our thing. that we've agreed upon. So that's fine. It's a kind of dream construct, but you're going beyond that, and this is the next phase, essentially, of your awareness practice. Is you can notice a thought, the sun is bright, but what about the image of the sun that arises when you have that thought? What about a memory of when your arm was burning, right? What about um, like an inquisitive kind of inclination where you're like, how far is this thing? What is this thing? All these things come up from the sun is bright. And so just seeing that is enough. But noticing how tactile sensations can come up, how memories, nostalgia, even, these kinds of things can come up, that's great right there. Good enough. But you've also expanded our topic, which I appreciate. It's not just like a linear linguistic thought, part of your language model. When you think the sun is bright, you may well have an image. You may have sounds. You may have tactile sensations. Even smells could come up. Yeah. Right on.
Thanks.
Yeah, just continue to see. This is, you have a new telescope or a microscope. You have the awareness scope now, and you're seeing all these things. Now you're gonna want to write stories about some of the stuff you see, naturally, or you may ask questions and share about it. But one big reminder is that seeing is the key. And stories can be fun and they can be educational even and exploratory, but they're not the main premise. The main premise here is that seeing is enough. So go ahead, Oza.
Hello. Is this working?
Hello.
Audible? I think so.
Yes.
Oh,
What's the question or inquiry?
well, it's a bit kind of different. Something that I've been experiencing sometimes is that, I mean, this is kind of related. I will have a sort of thought which, over which I don't want to ever exert any control over, I don't want to kind of limit it or even consider it. And rather, even, I will feel it so good that I will want it to change me. I would want, it to drive me, kind of, because I had this sort of, respect and, love
That's
for what is
terrible.
practicing.
You
Yeah, I
don't
was
want
gonna
a
ask
thought.
that.
You don't want a thought to define you or to drive you, because there's much more happening here than just that thought. So yeah, this is going back to your inquiries yesterday too. That you're, I feel a part of you is believing in programming, but Dzogchen doesn't involve programming. It doesn't ask for any new programming. It doesn't involve beliefs, new ideas, any of that.
Yeah,
The
that makes sense.
ideas, if you learn about the three kayas because you're practicing Dzogchen, that's ideally would be more of a revelation that, oh yeah, this vast space that's here, the spaciousness, we can call it Dharmakaya. We can just give it a label, and there's no problem with that. But we're not invested into that label. And the thing is, Oza, because possibly you have this great mind that you want to keep on justifying the thinking mind's power. You keep on wanting to put it at the top of the pyramid, as if it's the champion. You want to make the thoughts, the programming, the summit, but it's not. Awareness is the summit. No thoughts, the I don't know mind. Isn't it amazing that people spend their entire lives trying to become very, very smart, but they're going further and further away from awareness when they do that? So further and further away from the great cognition, and then all their smarts goes away when the brain goes away, when they die. So it was all for nothing. It was all futile. No matter how smart you become, it's futile because you're going to lose it. So instead of depending on getting smarter and smarter and trying to become a better programmer, really start to be aware of awareness and let go of all this proliferation. And then you'll have more proliferation, ironically. You'll have multi-angled, multi-dimensional, infinite cognition available to you. You don't have to keep endorsing programming. Okay?
Yeah, and I do feel I have some, experience of that. It's not totally alien, what you're saying. But I guess I have, this kind of what they call it, retroactive kind of desire, where I want sometimes to be subjugated by these type of thoughts. I kind of actively want it sometimes. I notice that.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
so
I
good. Oh
think
my
that
god. Function, yeah, like work me rather than I work you, kind of that type of feeling.
right. Well, you're not working the thoughts. There's no work. That's the great part about it. And so you don't need to do any of that programming or manipulation. And in fact, then it becomes much easier without work. I could say, hey, I need to paint tomorrow. I could just have that one thought, and then I will wake up that next morning and paint. Because I suggested it to myself. That's ancient old, like Napoleon Hill wrote about that and Think and Grow Rich. That's ancient stuff that's been revealed long time ago, how to use your mind. I mean, that's Dzogchen is way beyond that, programming your own mind.
Yeah. Okay, okay. When
Have
you
you read
talk,
that book? That's a very famous book. I think everybody's read that, right?
I
Think and
didn't
Grow
actually
Rich. Oh, well,
think and
all
grow
the all
rich.
the famous people like Carnegie and Ford, they all,
Oh
it's
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Great Green Book. It's just really famous among billionaires and trillionaires and venture capitalists. I don't know, but
Ah,
uh, because they know how to program their mind to become wealthy. It's actually not that hard
oh
because
yeah.
your thoughts have a lot to do with your reality. They do. In fact, if I wasn't into Dzogchen, maybe if I was just a mindfulness teacher, maybe I'd be teaching you how to have better thoughts, how to make yourself happy using your thoughts, because thoughts are very, very powerful. Like the Native Americans would say, is however you paint yourself, it matters. If you paint yourself bright and colorful, you're going to be bright and colorful. If you paint yourself dark and gloomy, you're going to be dark and gloomy. But it's all just paint at the end of the day. And so Dzogchen is going beyond thoughts, ideas, beliefs, and concepts and programming. Okay?
When you say sovereignty, that doesn't mean dominance. That's a different, kind of
No,
notion.
sovereignty means you have a freedom.
Okay, okay. I was thinking
Yeah.
like king, things is like kingness, like you're kind of establishing control over them. But that I think makes more sense.
Oh, I
Freedom
see.
from that. Yeah. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I think I kind of
Oh,
got.
that's where the communication, yeah. Well, they call it the sovereign monarch and all these things. So I could see how, especially in the Kunyigapo, they present it as a monarch. But it's control, it's effortless control. It's like the ocean controls the waves, there's no agency there.
Yeah, no hierarchy. Okay, makes sense. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I think Lynn was next there.
Yeah. Hi, Dawai. Hi, everybody. Um, so let me see. I was in a really good place and not too much thinking. And then I got into this sort of dance, or it's more like an argument in my mind about
Hmm.
um, space is vast and there is no space.
Mhm.
And usually that takes me out of my peaceful state. But today, after we were doing this, it came up again, and the contradiction of the two thoughts create. And then I realized that awareness didn't change whether space was vast or there is no space as thoughts. And so it's starting to seem to me, I'm noticing the the
Basis.
ridiculousness. Yeah,
The
well,
ridiculousness.
the ridiculousness of having the thoughts about space.
Oh.
It's it's there no matter what I think. And
Uh-huh.
I can sort of start to let it go. So is that what do you think?
You're on it, Lynn.
Okay.
You have been a very diligent yogini here practicing with us, and yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah, I'm so happy to find that because it was so important to know that answer and it doesn't really matter. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's not that it totally doesn't matter. That would be a kind of going too far into it. But yeah,
Uh-oh.
there's a it doesn't matterness to it. Yeah, you don't want to end up like some of these non-dual people who just tell you everything doesn't matter. Everything's perfect all the time, and uh, like they would say, if you tell me you're feeling depressed, they would say there is no you, and you'd be like, oh, okay.
Right.
Depression is just a label, they just constantly slapping you with these ultimate truths, and uh yeah, it becomes really kind of annoying to talk to somebody like that. So yeah, we don't mind speaking in our constructs. There's nothing wrong with that.
So maybe just having a little patience with my inquiry because the tension is I have to know that answer right now.
Well, I think it was more of a sharing teaching today than it was an inquiry. Maybe you're just kind of checking it with me too, and that's great. But yeah, it sounds like you're just really onto something wonderful there.
Well, I was going to totally get whatever you want to label that a non-dualist, but I won't. I won't go down that path.
Well,
No, I'm checking it with you.
the great thing about our approach is you can label it all day long, no problems. But if I sit here and say, "Oh, that's just a label," that doesn't mean if I constantly like pick at you for your labeling and what you're calling it, and that's when we're getting into that non-dual crazy land.
Okay, so Dawai.
It's funny to watch, though, if you watch these people sometimes in these groups, and there's like I watch this one lady sometimes, and she's the host, and she spends the entire hour telling people that they're not feeling what they're feeling because it doesn't exist, and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and the people are like, oh, okay, yeah.
No, that can happen for sure. But Dawai, is space vast or is there no space?
Well, it's like you said, space is a label, vastness is a label, and to some degree, we don't mind using our consciousness experiences. Like we've had this experience, and we called it spaciousness, and that was all conditioned. It was all illusory. None of that ever existed, right? So it's like a kind of dream language, illusory language that we don't mind using. Um, but obviously the mind has no bounds. I can keep on saying that. I can say it's open, it's spacious, it has no bounds. And yes, those are all concepts, those are all constructs used to essentially describe a conditioned experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you really want to get into it, I can get pedantic with the semantics too. But, you know, let's just be real with each other, and not go deep diving into ludicrousy. Yeah,
Okay.
it's spacious. No problem.
Okay.
Mind is spacious. Yes, no problem. If I start to say, "Oh, well, space is a contract," then I'm going down that
Yep.
insane rabbit hole of
Yes,
non-duality.
that's what I can do. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I could tell you've been around some neo-Advaitins or something like that.
Thank
Advaita Vedanta.
thank you so much.
Yep. We're basically like, if you're in the ocean, you can say whatever you want about it. But we verify that you're in the ocean so that you're in the view.
Okay.
Uh, we verify that, then we can talk about it many, many different ways. The semantics don't need to be precise at that point.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank
All right.
you.
Well, it's good to hear. We usually don't hear from you in the morning sessions.
Well, it's taken me almost months to be getting up at 6 a.m. So
Oh,
I usually just listen, but I am starting to get used to getting up at 6 a.m. Cool.
yeah. And the time change too makes it tricky.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah, I'm going to start an activist movement next year against the time change.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna self-immolate on the.
Want
Just kidding.
to go to a protest.
Obviously, the time change bothers me a little bit. Go ahead, Joko.
This time change bothers me.
Yeah, for me it's a kind of interesting bother though, because they shifted my whole schedule around. I'm a pretty, low key, every day like to do the same thing, and don't like a lot of disruptions and that simplicity. But then when they change the time, it's like unavoidable.
Yep.
It's fine. It's great.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Lynn. Yeah, it was really great to hear from you.
Thank you, everybody.
And then I think Choco wanted to join in there.
Yeah, please. Good morning.
Hello.
Really enjoying all the discussion today. The thing that prompted me to want to participate is Osal's comment about being worked by certain thoughts, thoughts that maybe you want to be worked by. And my life experience, I think, is a good, it's kind of a good cautionary tale against doing that, because it's easy to see with addiction that being worked by your own thoughts is a hell and you can't get out of it. And who would want to subject themselves to, all those confines. But the way that I was shown to get sober was to inhabit and let these other better, more noble thoughts work me. um, and there were many, right? A lot of the typical suspects, like graciousness, kindness, or selflessness, or these things. And I was talking to a friend recently, and he and I have the same background and the same, we went at this with this fervor, this like religious fervor, the desperation of drowning men. And what we ended up with, 20 years later, is this prison that feels very safe to us. Um, and in my case, my prison has Alicia in it and it has Elliot in it, so it seems like the door is open and I am free. Um, but upon being pointed out and introduced to effortlessness, I started noticing the prison. And the prison was my prison was gilded, and I had spent a lot of time proliferating about my own sanity. Look how sane I am. And that's a crazy thing to sit around and think about, your own sanity. And it's a crazy thing to spend enormous amounts of time cultivating. And something that became really uh, terrifyingly apparent to me sitting in the Sangha was every time I ever planted a flag of, a label or a proliferation, and I said, that's a good label that can live right there. Unconsciously, it comes with a location, like John was saying. Um, I put it over here and it lives over there and it's always safe here. And there's all these like ancillary labels. As soon as I plant a thought proliferation in the ground and I say that thought is always safe, it's at odds with tons of other things. It's very rigid. And the thing that I ended up with, the hell that I ended up in, is I believe that I have curated the perfect mind life. And I believe that I have created the perfect overlay for my life. And I also believe that I understand me completely. And I use this overlay that I've created to understand everyone that comes into my little jail cell. And I see everyone through many, many, many layers of, my own conditioning, homemade crazy pants conditioning. And uh, sitting and watching the hard edges blur out and watching all my hard work start to come unraveled was very unpleasant. and very sobering, ironically, and very terrifying and kind of embarrassing because this is my life's work. I spent 22 years trying to get sober and working very, very hard, very diligently at following instructions and building all the right constructs and inhabiting those very, not bumping into any of the walls and stuff. And I had this highly conditioned little cage for myself. And I believed that I loved it. I believed that it was the best cage anyone had ever built, you know. Um, and then I get pointed out, and it's so obviously the greatest folly of my whole life. I mean, it was better than nothing. It was better than drinking myself to death. I didn't have this alternative back then. And perhaps I wouldn't have had the discipline or who knows? Perhaps I needed all those things. Perhaps. But for someone who hasn't spent 20 years doing anything, any one thing yet, I would strongly caution against, letting thoughts work you. Like Dawai said, like he jumped right in and was like, "That's terrible. That's terrible." And I was like, Dawai's right, but it could be hard to see, if the thoughts that you're allowing to work you are very interesting or, seem very safe. It can be very hard to see how or why someone might have that strong reaction against that. So I thought I would kind of wade out into the waters and share that you can end up with a very gilded mansion that is every bit as bad as any other samsaric cage. You can't think your way out of samsara. You can't samsara your way out of samsara. The taking effortlessness as the refuge is the pinnacle, and staying free all the time, not needing to box it up, not needing to describe it. So thanks. Today's discussion was, really engaging. Appreciate you all very much.
See why I said he'd be a great teacher? Really nice. Thanks for backing me up on that too. Yeah, the programming seems appealing, doesn't it? It's a good point. But it's got a virus. There's a 0-day attack embedded in your programming. Okay. So please use caution. Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, it was something that I was hoping came through, is that part about anytime I plant a flag, anytime that I build something, it's built inside of a whole bunch of other things that have to always be true or else it's false. So I would steer people to these things in my life. Things always have to stay the same. And that looks really crazy to other people, partners and little kids and family members. They're like, wow, I think this is better than you not drinking yourself to death. But boy, you seem very stressed out, you know? So,
Yeah. That happens with religion too, by the way. People become sober, but they become intoxicated by religion, and then they push it in a very awkward way on people, and it just becomes their new alcohol, essentially. Really great sharings today, you guys. Wow. It's like what I was saying, you all took it even further and expanded upon it, and that is really great. Because I know it's challenging. I know I was inviting you all to get in the weeds today and to really get into it. And man, again, you've accepted that challenge, and not only that, the sharings just complemented the whole thing. So I really appreciate that. And I'm glad I can be safe to tell the truth in here. That I don't feel intimidated. Like, oh, if I speak my mind, if I speak what I feel is true, that I'm going to offend somebody, or they're going to get turned off from the practice or something like that. I feel great safety with many of you, and that is highly appreciated, because it'd be impossible to share any type of freedom if we didn't address so-called good and bad things, the comfortable stuff and the uncomfortable stuff. So comfortable stuff. I think I added a syllable and then subtracted a syllable. Okay, so any final thoughts, comments, questions then before we check out today? And yes, we can meet. Yeah. And happy Easter time to those who are celebrating and participating in whatever, or just having a relaxed weekend. Really great. And hope you get some peace, some rest, some good food, clean water and things like that. Maybe make some art, play a song, write a book. I don't know, pet a dog. If you can't pet a dog, pet a cat. Right, little beer? If you can't steal a gate, take a fence. All right, everybody. We will end here then with a moment of silence for the dedication. And deep bow to you, everybody. Have a beautiful day.